The higher realms are collapsing into the false matrix. Okay, let's unpack this because it is probably some of the best news that I could give you. I gave you news that was probably some of the roughest news that I could give you a couple of months ago when I shared a video with you called The Collapse of the Astral and the Underworld. And that tells the story about how the veil thins to the point of collapse between us and that astral and underworld. And yes, the astral and the underworld were one place. It was one illusion. And so many people were led to believe that the astral realm, myself included, I was also led to believe that the astral realm was where the angels were hanging out. It was the exact opposite. The astral was part of the false matrix, and it was a copy of, a mimic version of pure 4D. Now, 4D is different to the astral realm. The astral was set up to mimic 4D, but nonetheless, the astral and the underworld collapsed, and it led us into this spooky space where we had to confront ourselves. That's the bottom line of where it led us. It led us to a place where we could go nowhere and see nothing without seeing the truth, and everything that was standing on a lie began to collapse, including our own narrative that we were spinning ourselves about who we were. All of the darkness began to surface, all of the illusions began to crumble, because that's the nature of darkness when it's seen. When darkness is unseen, it's very powerful. When darkness is seen, what happens in that exact moment? It is seen through the eyes of you, which means it's seen through the eyes of light, which means it stops being dark. Because it's the same as you do to a room that is dark. You put the light on, it stops being dark because you can see, you illuminate. So the act of seeing darkness is the act of bringing light to it. And in that moment, darkness is no longer separate. And that is where darkness hides and where it wants to be. That is its stronghold. So as much as that was really damning news that I brought you and difficult to digest when I told you the astral and the underworld have collapsed into our space, as this occurred, it meant that we were rubbing shoulders with entities. We were literally in the same realm. But now we've cleansed enough of it. And that's why it happened. It didn't happen because we've been bad and we've got to be punished. No, it happened because this is part of the ascension process. It's taking responsibility for our own darkness and seeing our own darkness. You were never called upon, it was never your role to alchemize the external bad guys. That was not for you to do. It was for you, the individual, to look at that which was hidden within you and to illuminate, to see. It's a painful process to acknowledge what was once denied, to see what was once hidden. It takes courage, but that's the journey that we've walked. And we've walked enough of that journey. So I'm not saying to you, okay, it's complete, you can go on holiday. What I'm saying is we've walked enough of that journey. We're still in cleanup mode. We will still be the cleanup crew for our own personal lives, taking personal responsibility for our own hidden darkness for a long time to come. But something massive has shifted now, and it is this: that as we bring ourselves into a higher level of light, heaven comes home. That's the best way I can say it. Heaven comes home. If hell, because that's what the darkness in the underworld was, right? Hell. If hell collapses into our space, it was only ever a matter of time for heaven to do the same. And what is heaven? Heaven is the opposite of hell. If hell is the disconnection to light and to God and to truth, then heaven is the extreme opposite, which is the connection. It's the presence. Feel that. Don't let that just be a word. Presence. Feel the presence of divinity within you as I speak to you through today's conversation, because now that energy can start to come in. See, we've done enough of the work. That light can begin to anchor into the bodies now. There's a huge threshold that we passed when we actually did the dirty work, so to speak, and faced ourselves. There was a threshold that we passed, and it showed our true nature. We earned our stripes, so to speak. When the galactics looked at us, God looked at us, the universe looked at us and said, oh, they're doing it. They're actually facing themselves. Does that mean every human being faced themselves? No, of course not. You know that they didn't, but enough did. That's the role of a front runner. A front runner is going to be the one who doesn't look for excuses and doesn't stop to blame anybody else, but just does the work that needs to be done. That's you, that's me, and that's what's been taking place. Enough that we can begin this next phase of bringing heaven home. Because that was ultimately always our role as star beings or light bearers or beings of consciousness. It doesn't matter what you call yourself. It's a name. It's just a label. It's not who you are. The truth of who you are is God. Multidimensional and infinite in nature. And you came here with a longing for you at that higher realm. That is what we called the homesickness of the starseed. It was the longing for the connection, the longing for heaven. So heaven was what we were to bring home, but we could never bypass, we could never dodge and go straight for heaven. We had to bring hell into a state of integration first so that we could learn this key lesson called personal responsibility. Personal responsibility to learn that it had nothing to do with blame as we were once taught. To learn that it has everything to do with the power to move forward and take action and be the responsible caretaker for your life and not pawn that responsibility off onto somebody else by blaming them, but rather to do the powerful thing, which is to take that responsibility so that you can have the ability to respond, which is the ability to take action and to create a new outcome for your life. All of that was intertwined in the lessons that we underwent when we began to work with the underworld and alchemize it into our bodies. We've been so scared of darkness. We, the human populace, have been programmed to shield against darkness, to protect ourselves against darkness, so afraid of the boogeyman, so afraid of this external powerhouse of darkness that's going to come and get us, that we've been kind of, living life like this instead of realizing, no, I'm the ripple. I am the ripple of divinity. And when you live your life as the truth of who you are as the ripple of divinity, you're not worried about what's coming in because you're so busy shining out. You're so busy radiating out. I say it to my online community all the time. You guys know the word, say it with me. Shine, baby, shine. Shine, baby, shine. It means you are the ripple. You are the light of divinity. And when you get that, not just here, here, when you get your light, because you feel your light, because you interact with your light. And if you're about to ask me, how do I do that? The answer is join my online community, because that's where I teach you. That's the real gold that I share with you, is the how to facilitate that connection to your divinity. And to walk you through step by step that process. You're not going to get words of explanation. You're going to get a journey with me, basically energetically holding your hand, that you step into your divinity deeper, further, every single time that we meet, which is once a week. It's a rapid growth. It's you fast tracking your ascension. But that is the journey that all of us can undertake right now. We all get this fast forward option, this fast forward button right now. As heaven collapses into our realm, we have access to our divinity in a way we've not had access to before. Which means what? We have access to forgiveness, levels of love, levels of compassion. But do you know what's going to determine everything is your focus? Because think of it right now. Imagine that you're in a room, and into this room, everything has collapsed. The veils have come down. The veil between you and the astral and the underworld, down. The veil between you and heaven, down. I have to pause every time I say that, because I'm taking in the profundity of what that means and the enormity of what that means. And every time I say it, connect to it, feel it inside of me, brimming with tears, because we worked so hard for this. We all did this together. We all said to each other, I'll walk you home. I will walk you home. And that's what we're doing. We're finding each other, aren't we? Here in the comments section, you can let me know. Let me know who you are. Let me know your name, because we are all doing this together. We are holding hands and walking each other home. Hey, I'm Kerry K, and I'm holding your hand, and we're walking home together. And part of what we're doing is bringing heaven home through the body as an embodiment. I cannot stress that part enough. That we don't bring heaven home as a thought, we don't bring heaven home as a prayer, as a yoga pose, as a mantra, we bring it home as an embodiment. We bring it home as an experience of who we are as presence in presence. But our capacity to do that has just increased and amplified. You see, we could always connect with God. We could always connect with home. But something that I shared very recently, I was interviewed over the weekend, and I found myself saying this beautiful thing, and that is, we've always had a sliver of a connection to divinity, a sliver. Because part of being hijacked into the false matrix was that we were going to lose connection to our divinity, but for a sliver, but for this little strand, golden strand of light that connected us all the way back home to source. And through that sliver, we could always love, forgive, find compassion, trust, find innocence, commit great acts of purity and kindness, perpetrate phenomenal acts of humanitarian love and compassion. We were doing all of that through a sliver of divine presence, of divine connection. Now, what happens when that stops being a sliver? And what happens when that is a flooding band of light that is connecting you directly to God's source consciousness? Everything in you begins to be flooded by light. And the hard work, I want to tell you this, the hard work is over, or the hard work is done. In the sense that the hard work was you facing your darkness and learning to be responsible for yourself. That was always the hard work. That was always the hard part of the process. The easy part of the process is what's happening right now. Okay, now divinity comes in. Now divinity anchors in. And when divinity does that, divinity does the work. See, you had to do the work, the first layer of it. The next layer of it, which is this layer of having divinity interact with your body, this is more of you allowing, witnessing, acknowledging, loving, holding gratitude and humility for the process, but not doing, but rather seeing what's being done as divinity interacts with you, because that's what divinity does. It seeks you out. It, in a sense, it finds you. And it comes home to you. And just the presence of divinity in your field begins to melt density, because that's the nature of divinity. In the same way that it's the nature of light. I'm looking at my light right now. When I put my light on here in my room, the darkness ceases to be. When your divinity comes on, the density ceases to be. Now, is it as instant as that? Am I saying to you, okay, guys, everything's healed, everyone's healed, you can all go home? No, I'm saying to you, it's beginning. It's beginning, and this is where we are right now. So this means everything levels up, everything takes a step up, a quantum leap forward, and you become an even more capable custodian of your own energy field, an even more responsible caretaker of your own thoughts, feelings, emotions, etc. And in so doing, you become even more available to divinity, even more open to access the pathway of light streaming into your body. I love you. I'm so proud of you and us as we've reached this new frontier, this new threshold. So in the same way that you could feel entities brushing up against your skin, you can now feel the angelic. But where is your focus? Is your focus on the boogeyman out there or the light in here? Because that determines your experience right now. Your focus is absolutely paving your pathway. So, from my heart, all the way into yours, I can't wait to hear from you in the comment section below. Lots and lots of love, everyone. I'm going to leave the video that I spoke about, which is the collapse of the Astral and Underworld. I'll leave it up here in case you haven't watched it or want a refresher on it. Watch this now, knowing what I've just told you, and see how differently you hear this, understanding where we've gone. Our next step has just been taken. I'll be sharing a whole lot more with you about what this means, because there's a follow-on to this conversation about how all time is going to start coming into the now and what that means for us. So stay tuned for the next one. from my heart all the way into yours. So much love. Bye-bye for now.